let's start out with Pat Riley. Old school. Back in my day. Played his basketball in the 60s. Coached through the rough 80s. The flashy 90s. And now has been in Miami for a couple decades now. And has created what we like to call the Heat culture. And either you're going to do it my way or you can leave. We don't need you. And he'll send messages through the media. We saw this last year in the NBA playoffs. This is former head coach Pat Riley sending shots at Jimmy Butler after Miami lost in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, basically saying, if you aren't playing in the games for us, stay quiet.
You know, I've been involved in competition in the playoffs against certain opponents that turned into hate. You know, I mean, even since we've been here, you know, I mean, I hate to use that word, but the competition gets so tough that you don't like one another. And so we played Boston 4 times, I think, in the playoffs since Jimmy's been here. So, you know, you do develop some dislike for the other team. But, you know, for him to say that, you know, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? You know, if you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
Now, give Pat Riley this. Throughout the time he's been in the NBA spotlight, we've seen changes in his aesthetic. In LA, the flashy guy, Mr. Hollywood, immaculate suits. Not a single strand of hair out of place. In New York, he still has the immaculate suits and the great hairstyle, but it seems that he's taken on the persona of a mob boss. And you saw that persona in his team in the Knicks when they would go head-to-head with the Indiana Pacers in the 90s. You get to Miami, it's more of this Miami Vice look, right? But it remains the same. His demeanor, old school, strong. That's who he is. And nobody's going to get in the way with that. Nobody's going to sink that ship that Pat Riley has built now in Miami. But he did go on Dan Le Batard this week, and when he says the Jimmy Butler situation and how he feels about it, how he's personally went about it, he has said, hey, maybe I could have handled things differently. Here's Coach.
I would have handled it differently. There's no doubt, but I can. The players who want to express themselves in a way that, you know, is absolutely anti what my beliefs are in representing an organization, whether it's to grow a bigger brand, to make more money, to go out there that, you know, separates themselves a little bit from the pack. There's nothing you can do about that. The league wants it. You know, content is king. And I have found that out, that trying to keep the media out, the commissioner won't allow that. Access is what it's all about. And so players' personalities today, the younger generation is just different than it was, you know, when I grew up. I grew up, and I think most of us my age grew up at a time when our parents were harder, if we had them. If we had what they would call the nuclear family, it was hard, but it was different. There was, even if it was a stone cold house, there was love there. And you had a place to go home every night, and there were 2 parents that cared about you, that provided for you, that maybe they didn't love you like you wanted them to love you, but it was different. You know, and I'm not saying today's player is not that, but it was harder, and we understood that. And so I understand this generation of players and how they want to go about living their life. It's different.
And I think he saw a lot of that with LeBron James. I think probably he felt that to me, that had to be the beginning of the guard where things are different. But he also had a guy in LeBron James who was this superstar of the NBA without an NBA championship. If you remember, What was the sales pitch to LeBron James via Pat Riley? He took his rings, he dumped them on the table. Gave you the Kurt Signetti. Google me. I win. Coming to the Miami Heat, you're going to win. We will show you how to win. On top of the fact that it is South Beach, and I know a lot of the NBA players love being in South Beach. And could you imagine what South Beach is going to be like during the NBA Finals? To my memory, I don't remember a lot of guys telling Pat Riley no when it comes to coming to his ball clubs in which he's been on. The only person that I heard in recent memory was Tracy McGrady said no. They wined and they dined him. Got him on the yacht, pulled up to the dock. There was Pat Riley saying, welcome to the Miami Heat. And Tracy said no and went to the Magic. It's a new day. It's a new age. Something that Pat, I believe he's strong in his stance. Although he's saying he would have handled things differently, I don't think he's sorry for the fact that Jimmy Butler is someone he cannot have on his team anymore. So let's enter in Jimmy Butler. One thing I will never forget what he said. He was on the Knuckleheads podcast with Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson. He said, I don't want to go back to Tomball, Texas. It was a hard life for me. I've been the underdog, even when I got to the NBA. Now you look at this guy, he's become an all-star. Took a Miami Heat team that before him, nobody was really coming after the departure of the Heatles. He probably looks at the situation in Miami and he says, listen, I took not, for lack of a better term, dormant organization, but I've taken a franchise where I said I wanted to go. I've taken you to 2 NBA finals. I should be able to say I've gained power in this organization to where if I am asking for help or if I'm asking for this thank you contract, which is maybe my last contract, maybe it isn't, but I would like to retire a member of the Miami Heat, but you should pay me accordingly due to what I have done for you. Mark Cuban did it in Dallas with Dirk. The Lakers did it with Kobe in Los Angeles. And I'm one to tell you, 2 years, $50 million for Kobe Bryant at that time, coming out of a torn Achilles injury and also a torn rotator cuff, maybe not the best decision in the world. Pat Riley is probably looking at this guy and saying, listen, I feel that we have help here and an all-star player in Bam Adebayo. At the same time, you want us to pay you, you're 35. I'm not going to pay you what you think your market value is worth. And what have we seen with Jimmy Butler in Chicago, Minnesota, and Philadelphia? If he doesn't get his way and he sees that writing on the wall, on top of what Pat Riley said last year about keeping your mouth shut, it's now time to announce that I want out. Here's Jimmy Butler just a few weeks ago requesting a trade from the Miami Heat publicly.
I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to joy back. I'm happy here, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
So now it's time to split this thing up. The question is now for Jimmy Butler, where does he go? Brian Windhorst already saying that teams are not giving out their best deals for Jimmy Butler. Bradley Beal maybe would waive his no trade clause. That's coming from via Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated. But Miami is saying we don't want Bradley Beal and the money that he has on his contract for the next 2 years. We don't want that. So teams may be reluctant to give Jimmy Butler an opportunity because they may see the same thing Pat Riley does. If this guy does not get his way, he'll start talking through the media. If you've seen a couple of his Instagram posts that have been posted on Twitter and on other NBA accounts via YouTube and places like that. It's almost like he's trying to blame this on Pat Riley. Everything would be fine if you weren't cutting me down either behind closed doors or that of publicly. What did he say to the guy at the coffee shop? If you saw that, see, I gave you a compliment. See, that's what a boss is supposed to do. You're supposed to build your guys up, not tear them down. Who's that shot being thrown at? But is there a team that's saying, listen, we see Jimmy as part of our future and we'll give him the extension that he wants? And I'm sure Jimmy wants to go to a contender. I think he's fallen in love with the idea of the Phoenix Suns. But if Bradley Beal's the major trade piece, this all lies in his hands. Will he want to give up that no trade clause to go to, if South Beach doesn't want him, a name that you're hearing is the New Orleans Pelicans, possibly being a team that would help facilitate a Jimmy Butler trade because they themselves are trying to get out of contracts of, say, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. And then you have this other side with Pat Riley, with a guy like Gilbert Arenas, who believes that Pat Riley is trying to make himself bigger than the players. And if he's won the championships or championships that have come via Miami, it's because of his tutelage, him understanding the game, him getting the right players, him convincing the right players to come to Miami to win a championship. He convinced Shaquille O'Neal to take less money to bring in more guys so they could defeat Dallas. Convince LeBron James, as we said earlier, to come to Miami. Don't go to New York. Don't go back to Cleveland. Heck, don't even consider going to LA and playing for the Clippers. Your best chance of winning is here. Was able to, whether you want to say he convinced Jimmy or Dwayne Wade was an integral part in that, of getting Jimmy Butler to the Miami Heat. If we've done it before, we can do it again. It may take a little while, but Miami's probably been looked at now as a team in Pat Riley's eyes to where he says, we don't rebuild, we reload. But you do have a guy in Gilbert Arenas who has said, listen, if it weren't for those guys, you yourself wouldn't be looked at as the guy that we revere so much in the NBA, stemming back from your days in LA. How true is that? Left up to conjecture. I'm willing to hear arguments on both sides. But unfortunately, now this is the final chapter. Does Jimmy get traded before the deadline? I don't know. And he still has $50 million left that he can opt into at the end of the year. So could this be a 2-year process between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat? Because I just don't know if Jimmy Butler is going to give up $50 million and saying, I want out of Miami that bad. But this has now gone through the media. And I'm sure they've had closed-door conversations, and Pat Riley is a guy who will acquiesce to your demand or your request of not wanting to be in Miami anymore. But as Jimmy Butler hurt himself in all this is a bigger question as well. This is now going to be the 4th team that you have now pounded the table and said, I want out. What do you make of this situation? 641-1010